Krishna says, for one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost, nor is he ever lost to me.
Beautiful. Yeah. I see Krishna everywhere. I don't see a D-O-G as a D-O-G. I see a D-O-G as a G-O-D.
The idea that we have a relationship with God, that we can speak to God, that we can serve God, that we can laugh with God, that we can play with Him, joke with Him. This to me made a lot of sense because it opened up the idea that yes, love is possible, and the highest loving relationship is with divinity in the divine world, in Vaikuntha, where there's no anxiety.
Premi premi nahi hai, premi sach mein prabhu hai. जब ये एहसास होगा, होगा फिर प्रेम योगा.
And before I say that, you have a beautiful voice, I have to say that. you could have made it in Bollywood. What to say? You could have made it in Bollywood, I'm sure.
Today, it is such a privilege that we have with us Swayam Bhagwan Keshawa Swami, a divine soul who lives with love for Krishna. Not only an advanced, awakened person, he is also open to discussing the Dwaita of Krishna consciousness and the Adwaita of Adi Shankara. And so we look forward to an interesting conversation about God, about life, about moksha, and about prema. I hope you will enjoy this conversation with Keshav Swami. I read you as Swayam Bhagwan, S.B. Keshav Swami. I hope I am not making any error.
No, that's absolutely perfect. Nice to see you, Ravi, and it's a pleasure to be with you.
Yeah, Ravi is no more. I have now become the Atma in Ravi. So Ravi is dead and gone.
Wonderful, wonderful.
I am also in the same paradigm of Swayam Bhagwan, where we are all manifestations of the one divine. So I want to straight away ask you about your journey. How did you give up an amazing life to take up a monastic life and become a monk? Maybe people would love to hear a little bit in your own words.
Wonderful, wonderful. For the purposes of today, do I still address you as Ravi or the Atman or?
No, just call me AiR. AiR is the Atma in Ravi.
AiR. Okay,
AiR.
Wonderful, AiR. So thank you so much. We're kind of really happy to be here, and my journey into monastic life. Well, as you know, we're all spiritual beings, and this life is simply a chapter in a longer story. So I guess the story behind the question that you're asking probably starts many, many lifetimes ago. But in this lifetime, when I was about 15, I was very much thinking about my future and where life would take me. And I felt an inclination towards simplicity, towards minimalism. I guess the goals and the aspirations of success that most people had didn't resonate with my heart. And so I guess I was searching, and when I was 15, I came across the Bhagavad Gita, and I read it as a 15-year-old. I can't say I fully understood it, but it intrigued me, and Arjuna as a character intrigued me, and I guess I found a little bit of the inner Arjuna within me, that confusion, that sense of questioning what success really is. And I guess that's where my journey began. And then I went to university when I was 18, and my spiritual hunger really grew at that time. And when I was 21, I graduated. I had a possibility of going into the corporate world, but instead I journeyed to the spiritual world, to the land of spirituality, to India. And I spent 6 months there when I was 21. And I guess that was really the time when I realized monastic life was something which I resonated with. And so I returned to London at the age of 21 and became a monk. And what can I say? 1 year as a monk led to 5, which led to 10, which now has been nearly 25 years. So I'm still on that journey, still learning. And yeah.
You know, the people read a lot of stuff, books and things like that. But sometimes the essence is very interesting. For example, when did you become Swayam Bhagwan? When did you adorn the title Swayam Bhagwan Keshawa Swami? What age was that?
Yeah, so I joined the monastery when I was 21, and then you kind of join as a novice monk, or what in Sanskrit we call a brahmachari, which means a student celibate monk. And what happens is that most monks, after a period of training, they become householders. In Sanskrit we call this grihastha. But there are some monks who decide to go direct from brahmacharya to sannyas. And sannyas means lifelong renunciation. So when I was 41, that was 2 years ago, I decided to embrace lifelong vows of renunciation. I accepted the order of sannyas. And at that time, I was given the name Swayam Bhagwan Keshawa Swami.
Very nice. Thank you so much for sharing. And we are having a very transparent discussion. So you can ask me any question you would like, and I would like to also have the privilege. See, a lot of people want to embark on the journey of spirituality. But there is so much myth, there is so much fairy tale associated with this, that people are scared. Many people are scared of the spiritual journey. Where I am concerned, after a journey of 25 years of success and success and success, I realized that I was not Ravi. I got that spark on the 31st of August 2014. I realized I am the Atma, which is the soul. I am the soul in Ravi. And I will touch that part of the Bhagavad Gita where Krishna says, Lord Krishna says that I am the Atma in each one of you. I would like to hear it in your words. I don't want to put anything into your mind. So, most people, like you said, they start, the Purushartha as they call it, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, you must have heard that. So, many people in today's generation, we learn. Like you went to college, we learn. And after we learn, we earn. And after we learn and we earn, then we burn and we return. So the cycle is, this. To me, I tell them, after you learn and you earn, don't just burn to return. Try to yearn. Like you said, you went for a quest, you went to find out. You had that jigyasa, that Hindi is okay, right? Some words in Hindi, simple Hindi is okay?
Yes, the inquisitiveness, yes.
Okay, so that curiosity in you led you to some, whatever is the realization. My realization is, we are not this body, mind, ego. We are the divine soul. So I would like to also understand from you, what is your principal realization? I love your videos. I see all we are on the same page in many of the subjects. There will be some areas we may not be completely aligned, but it's good to have some difference of opinions and discuss it so that by the end of this chat, it's a productive hour for you, me, and most important, the viewers who are watching the podcast. So I'm interested in knowing what was your realization? Were there any such realizations that transformed your life?
I think you've really set the foundation for the conversation. And I guess, you know, when I was at school, we used to study Shakespeare. And Shakespeare said, all the world's a stage, and each person plays their roles. And they all have their entrances and their exits. And, you know, that really resonated with me because I felt like all these different personas which I was taking on, the roles that people wanted me to fit into in my life, while they were very much tangible and very real, they didn't really resonate with me in terms of who I really am. So the Bhagavad Gita in a very beautiful Sanskrit verse tells us, Dehinosmin yatha dehe komaram yovanam jara tata dehantara prapti dhirastatra namuyati. Krishna says to Arjuna in a beautiful verse that the body is always changing, and all the designations along with the body also change. But you, Arjuna, are the indestructible soul which survives beyond all those changes of body. And eventually, when the body is no longer useful and we die, that soul continues on to the next journey. And so, while this was an amazing philosophy, what made it even more amazing is that when I observed life, it began to help me to make sense of so many things. For example, I used to think people have everything materially, but why are they still not happy? And then I realized if we're spiritual beings, you can't just satisfy the body and the mind and expect yourself to feel fulfillment, because you're something beyond the body and mind. So immediately I was like, this makes sense. Sometimes I would look at life and question, why is there suffering in the world? But when you realize that you're a soul on a journey, and this chapter is just one chapter, then you realize in every story, sometimes in every chapter, there's a little bit of difficulty, but there's a bigger story, a happier story around it. It helped me to make sense of life. So like this, as soon as I heard this philosophy, it just helped me to answer all my questions, and things became very clear. Yeah.
No, so beautiful. So therefore, what I realized today is you and me have the same realization. It's not different at all. It's very interesting that I can't chant the verses of the Gita, how beautifully you do, but in this verse that you chanted, and I'm so happy you explained it for the viewers, whoever is watching us. Now, Swamiji, this body will die. There is no doubt that the body will die. And what you just said, we are not the body and mind. Krishna tells to Arjuna that you are the divine soul. So I'm just going to put a small analogy to see whether you agree with me or not. We all use computers, and the computer is got a hardware. But the hardware cannot work unless we load it with a software. So I ask people, can the computer work with hardware? They say, no, we need software. And I say, can the software work without the hardware? How can the software work? So then now I trick them. I ask them, so what do you need for a computer to work? And they say, we need hardware and software. And then I question them, can the hardware and the software work without the power supply? So and then they say, how can the computer work without? So correct me if you don't agree with me. The body is like the hardware. The mind and the ego, what they solve, the antaha karna, if you're familiar, the mind, ego, man, buddhi, chitta, ahankar, as the scriptures say, is the software. And the atma, the soul, is the power supply. Now, many people are confused with the different interpretations of the Bhagavad Gita, and you being such an advanced speaker and learned person, I want your view on this matter. So when the body dies, what did Krishna tell Arjuna? That this body will die. And the body is not only changing now, science tells us that every 7 years, 8 years, 10 years, we have a new body. So if you've completed 40 years, you've already, every cell of your body has changed already 4 times. I'm sure you have heard of that.
Yes.
So, Swamiji, now, the body dies. And the soul, people are confused whether the soul, your soul and my soul, does that very soul take birth again? Or is that soul Krishna, the one omnipresent Krishna, Paramatma, Brahman, and the soul becomes one with the Supreme Soul? The Katha Upanishad, I'm not sure how much you're familiar with this, the Katha Upanishad, the story between Nachiketa and Yama, explains that the body will die. The karma is carried forward by the mind and ego when it is conceived in the mother's womb, and I give the word S-O-U-L, an acronym, a spark of unique life, S-O-U-L. So you have a soul, I have a soul, the soul is a prana, the soul is the life force, the soul is Krishna or Paramatma, whatever that's why you are Swayam Bhagwan, because there's Bhagwan inside you. I'm not sure that you use the terms Aham Brahmasmi or Tattvamasi. So my question to you, Are you in sync with this body being hardware, software, and the soul being the power supply? And the second question, the soul as such gives power to take birth to the ignorant mind and ego, which ultimately when we get realization, then we get moksha or we become one with Krishna. I want your views on these 2 points, please.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, AiR. Yeah, so on your first point of the hardware, software analogy, metaphor, I think we're totally on the same page with that. The way I usually use it is I say the hardware is the gross body, so earth, water, fire, air, ether. The software is the subtle body, mind, intelligence, and ego. Correct. And what I slightly would adjust your analogy when I use it. I say the user, the person doing something with the computer is the soul. In other words, if I'm using a computer and I want to do something with the hardware, I need software on it. So software is the interface between the user and the hardware, like that.
Okay. But so, then where does the power supply come into the picture?
The power supply, we would say, is also, I mean, your analogy is also good. I guess in my analogy, the power supply would be part of the hardware.
Okay.
In other words, when the soul, so if a computer is turned on and it has a battery, still it won't actually do anything unless there's a user behind it. So the user brings the animation. But you could also say the power brings the animation as well. You could do it in different ways.
No, what you're saying is very beautiful. I remember one verse of Krishna telling Arjuna that the 5 horses are the 5 senses, the mind is the reins, and you have to be the charioteer, the sarathi, to control the mind. And I hope that's what you're also trying to say, that you're the one who's right. But so what I want your expertise, I want your wisdom on this, Swamiji. What happens in the moment of death? Because when you talk of the monotheist religions, now I'm just touching, I'm not giving any names because we don't want to offend anybody. But in the monotheist religions, they believe that all the souls, when they die, will go into a particular place, and one day, in the ultimate day of judgment, all the souls together will be judged by a Lord, a God in heaven. And in the Eastern religions, we don't believe in this exactly. But there is an element of Dwaitha and Adwaita, which is not what we are trying to, it hardly matters. Finally, we want to get moksha. So is moksha also your ultimate goal? What according to you is moksha then? And who takes rebirth?
Okay, wonderful. Yeah, so according to the Bhagavad Gita, when the body is no longer useful and the soul has to move on, then what happens is there are 2 things that are very important. One thing is, what is the karmic bank balance of that soul? The second thing is, what is the desire of that soul? Now, according to the desire and the karma, God supervises the soul to then take its next situation. So let me give you a very crude example. Say, for example, at the end of my life, my desire is to live in a big house. And my karma is that I've done very, very good works and I have very good karma. Then in my next life, I may take birth as the son of a rich millionaire in a mansion. Okay. If my desire is to live in a big house, but I don't have good karma because I've done dubious things in my life, then what may happen is in my next life, I may become the dog of the owner of that mansion and that millionaire. So in other words, according to my desire and my karma, I find my next situation in my life.
Correct.
Now, according to the Bhagavad Gita, the goal of life is to realize you're the Atma in this body. You've realized you're the Atma in Ravi. So if you continue on with this realization at the time of death, if you no longer identify with Ravi, and you fully identify yourself as a soul, a servant of God, then according to the Bhagavad Gita, at the end of this life, you enter into the transcendental eternal world, which is known as Vaikuntha, or that place where there's no anxiety. Now, as you mentioned, there are two schools of thoughts in the Vedic tradition. One school of thought is the Dvaita school, which literally means the duality. And the other school of thought is the Adwaita, which is the non-dual or the monistic understanding. In the Bhagavad Gita, as those in the dualistic school of thought, Krishna says, Natvevaham jatu nasham natvam neme janadipa nacheva na bhavishyama sarvevayam ataparam. Krishna looks at Arjuna and he says, never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. So what Krishna explains to Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita is that every single soul is eternally individual, and moksha means to enter the transcendental world and then to have relationships of love with the Supreme Person and with all the other spiritual beings that are there. Now, in the school of Dvaita, there is also an understanding of the oneness between us, but it's not a oneness of identity, it's a oneness in the sense that we are all made of the same spiritual substance. However, we are all also eternally individual. And you know, philosophers differ on these points, and you know, we could spend the rest of the podcast having a debate on this point. But in essence, we see truth in both aspects.
Yeah. So just to close this aspect, because I love the fact that we are not wanting to continue disagreeing on a subject. We want to keep it aside. Yeah. And so we agree that there are two schools of thought. And in one school of thought, which is the Adwaita, the Atma has to become one with the Paramatma. But in the Dwaita school of thought, the Atma will go into Vaikuntha, which is a name given to a place called heaven in English normally, where you will have a beautiful, loving relationship of eternal bliss and everlasting joy and peace and love with the Supreme, which we do not deny. There is a Supreme. Neither does Dwaita or Adwaita deny the existence of a God. Yes. We all agree that today we are all alive because there's a power, there's a Supreme. Otherwise, the atheists and the agnostics, they question the existence of God. And neither the Dwaita or the Adwaita are in that space. So Swamiji, let us move on from Dwaita to Adwaita. So I want to learn from you a little bit of your beliefs, because I already have my beliefs. I'm happy to share with you whatever you ask me. So in the Adwaita principle, my goal is this body will die. It is to realize I am not me, the mind and ego me. I should realize I am the soul, S-O-U-L, spark of unique life, and I should become one. Then there is no punarjanma, there is no rebirth. In your statement, would you like to add anything, or have you already covered this point, or would you like to add anything else?
No, I think this is the point. And I guess because we're having friendly conversation here, and I don't think if I put across any points, it's going to sound like I'm debating you, because I think we're sharing here openly.
Yes, we want to build synergy. We are not here to have an argument.
We're here to learn from each other as well, and I think it's important to raise points. You see, I tell you, Ravi, what really resonated with me about this idea of relationship. I looked around at the world, and for me, I saw that what the universal quest is happiness.
Absolutely.
Agreed? Like, I don't think anyone would debate that. Now, if we look at where the highest type of happiness comes from, I concluded that it comes from love. There can be no higher happiness than love.
Absolutely, I agree with you.
Yeah, and so like if you look at all of the songs that people sing, and it's all about love, because that's what we seek to experience. Now, for me, what really made sense was that for love to exist, there has to be two entities. And then there has to be an exchange. And then there has to be reciprocation of feelings. For love to exist, there has to be relationship, there has to be variegatedness, and there has to be exchange. And so, for me, the idea that we have a relationship with God, that we can speak to God, that we can serve God, that we can laugh with God, that we can play with Him, joke with Him, this to me made a lot of sense, because it opened up the idea that yes, love is possible, and the highest loving relationship is with divinity in the divine world, in Vaikuntha, where there's no anxiety. So, but whereas if we take the position of oneness, then while oneness may bring a sense of peace from the duality of material happiness and distress in the world, what it may not give us is this opportunity of having loving exchange.
So beautiful. You have touched the depth of my heart. And so I'm going to take a few minutes to tell you some things.
Yes.
In the Bhagavad Gita and also in the scriptures, you must have heard that yoga, the word yoga, I hope you agree with me that yoga is not just asana and pranayama.
Yeah.
The word yoga is huge. Union between you and Krishna. It is that beautiful, what you said, I am in love with Krishna. So I am so much in love with Krishna. And I was in love with Shiva for 40 years. 40 years I built a temple in Bangalore. It's a 65-foot statue of Lord Shiva with the Ganga flowing. And how you're in love with Krishna, I was in love with Krishna, with Shiva. The scripture talks of bhakti yoga and karma yoga and jnana yoga, and then some people call it raja yoga, dhyana yoga, which is, so there were 4 types of yogas I experienced. The yoga of bhakti or devotion, action or karma yoga, jnana yoga or education, and dhyana yoga or meditation. Swamiji, I was blessed with a 5th yoga, and I wrote a book. This 5th yoga is called Prema Yoga. In this yoga, the difference is, for Keshav Swami, you're in love with Krishna, and your bhakti yoga actually grows into Prema Yoga, which name I'm going to give you as per the Bhagavad Gita. But for me, and I want your, as you said, we're very open to talk of this, yeah. I see Krishna everywhere. I don't see a D-O-G as a D-O-G. I see a D-O-G as a G-O-D. So, Krishna is manifesting in everything. And I don't know whether you would agree. Somewhere in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, I am in every soul. And you would interpret it in your way. I am existing in every soul that matters. I have written some songs, and in the song I say, Premi premi nahi hai, प्रेमी सच में प्रभु है, जब ये एहसास होगा फिर प्रेम योगा, प्रेमी से प्यार नहीं है, प्रेमी से प्यार ये है योगा. So your love for your beloved becomes puja, becomes prayer, becomes elevated form of bhakti. So I don't know whether you will entertain this thought as a synergy, or you would say we are going in different directions.
No, I think there's a lot of commonality between what we're... And before I say that, you have a beautiful voice, I have to say that. You could have made it in Bollywood. What to say? You could have made it in Bollywood, I'm sure.
Thank you for the compliment.
You know, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says in a very beautiful verse, Yo mam pashyati sarvatra sarvam cha mayi pashyati Tasyaham na pranashyami sachame na pranashyati. Krishna says, for one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost, nor is he ever lost to me.
Beautiful.
And you know, Ravi, like this is something like, you know, when you're in love, then let's just talk about the love of this world, which we know is sometimes materially tainted, but still we'll use it as an example. When you're in love with someone, a boy falls in love with the girl, then he sees her everywhere. Everywhere he is, he remembers her voice, he remembers what she likes, he visualizes her in his mind. Because when there's love in the heart, then you begin to see that personality everywhere.
Absolutely.
You connect that personality with everything around you. Everything reminds you of that personality. However, it's not that everything has become that personality. This is an important distinction.
Yep.
So, according to the Bhagavad Gita, the self-realized soul, they see Krishna everywhere in the sense that they see that the Paramatma is in everyone.
Correct.
Later on in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna will say, Vidya Vinaya Shampane Brahmane Gavihastini Sunichaiva Svapakecha Pandita Samadarshina. The darshan of someone who's spiritually realized is they see whether there's a Brahman, whether there's a cow, whether there's an elephant, whether there's a dog, or whether there's someone who eats dogs. Within each one of them, the Paramatma is there.
Absolutely.
And so the eyes of love mean to be able to see Krishna in your loved ones, Krishna in your friends, Krishna in every human being in the world, Krishna within all the animals, and even Krishna within nature.
In fact, when you are self-realized, then you don't just see the Bhagavan in a Bhagavan. You see even in the shaitan. If there's a shaitan, you see Bhagavan. So that is what elevates a person who has grown, right? So a person doesn't see a devil. When there's a D-E-V-I-L, the L drops and he sees the Devi. And he sees the Devi, and this is awakening to the fact that Krishna, it hardly matters to me whether we say Krishna or Shiva. In fact, we have a new term. Because if you tell a Christian God, the Christian will say it's Jesus. And if you tell in India today, the new generation, they say Rama, because Ayodhya has become a new thing. So we call God Sip, S-I-P. Why we've called God Sip is because it's a supreme immortal power. So Krishna is, the problem is we don't want to have conflict. We want to love each other. We want to build synergy. Even if there's a difference of opinion on Dvaita, Adwaita, there's a difference, it hardly matters. Because we are going to go, like you said, this world is a show. It's what we call a Leela. We come and we go. It's a karma. It's a karma bhumi. It's a place where karma is enacting as a drama in life. So, what do you think? Give me some things that you suggest people should do to achieve a purpose as per the Bhagavad Gita or your belief. What is the purpose of life? What are the important aspects of life that you would like to talk on?
Yeah. Well, there's two aspects to life. Krishna explains to Arjuna that each one of us have dharma, we have purpose, we have duties, and we have a mission that we're on in this life. Now, interestingly, Krishna says to Arjuna, each one of us have two dharmas. One dharma is known as Swadharma, which means our duty in this world, in this body and mind. And then Krishna says we each have a Sanatan Dharma, an eternal purpose, an eternal spiritual journey that we're on. Now the Swadharma consists of your occupation, your family relationships, your duties to society, your moral obligations as a citizen in this world. And the Sanatana Dharma consists of your devotion to God, your grasp of spiritual wisdom, your meditation practice, your selfless service. This is known as Sanatana Dharma. And what Krishna says to Arjuna is that most people do one or the other. Some people do their worldly duty very, very well, but they neglect their spiritual purpose. And some people, in the name of their spiritual purpose, they neglect their worldly duties.
Okay.
Arjuna wanted to leave the battlefield. Arjuna wanted to give up his duties as a warrior. Arjuna felt as though doing the spiritual and the worldly was mutually exclusive. But Krishna told him, don't do one or the other. Do them together and integrate them and use your Swadharma and integrate it with your Sanatana Dharma. And therefore, don't just be a husband, but be a spiritual husband. Don't just be a businessman, but be a spiritual businessman. Don't just be a son, but be a spiritual son. Like this, spiritualize everything you're doing in this world and connect it towards an eternal purpose. And if you do that, then not only do you become successful physically, emotionally, socially, economically, but at this ultimately you become successful spiritually.
So Swamiji, now on a lighter vein, I'm going to pull your leg. So,
Yes.
so now, if that was
Why
the
did I
case,
leave it? Why did I leave it all?
So you caught me even before I could pull your leg. No, because not only you left and I left. We both have left. See, there's a book, The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. I am the monk who lives that life. I built a very successful business. We were the best retailers in India. There was no modern retailing to India. When I came to London, I saw shops like Selfridges and Harrods and Hamleys. And I came to India and I brought modern retailing into India. I had a limousine, I had a Mercedes-Benz, I had everything. Then at 40, I shut down my business. I was just about to buy my private jet. I thought and Swamiji, it's not easy when you spend 25 years in luxury and in that type of life to switch.
Yeah.
So I know why I did it. And I also know Krishna telling Arjuna to try to blend both. But tell me in your words, what made you give up that Swadharma? And I don't say it's giving up, but evolving to the higher Dharma. Let me hear it in your words.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah. In every society, we need teachers. We need teachers who teach about economics. We need teachers at school to teach us language. We need teachers to teach us how to drive. Of course, in India, everyone just gets behind the wheel and does it. But to learn anything in life, we need teachers. So some people in their life will step away from their material duties, but they don't become irresponsible. What they do is they take up the life of a spiritual teacher. And in that way, although they seemingly have given up their material duties, they're actually performing a wonderful contribution and a wonderful service for society. So for example, you were flying high in the skies of material success. You gave it all up. But here you are, back in a studio, back with technology, back online. But now what you're doing is you're teaching the world. So you haven't falsely renounced the world. You've given up certain duties so that you can do something better for the world.
Correct.
And so in the same way...
Yeah, you have evolved to a higher purpose, a higher dharma is what you have done.
Yeah, and I accepted the order of sannyas, and even sannyas is a worldly duty. Did you know that, actually? Because it's a position, I'm not ultimately a sannyasi. I'm ultimately a spiritual soul, but right now I'm playing the role of a sannyasi. And
Yes.
so even this role as a teacher is not my eternal identity, but it's a worldly duty, and in that sense it's a swadharma. So yeah, in that sense, some people may take that route in life.
So obviously at the end of it, we all want to attain that ultimate goal called moksha. I mean, you don't deny that, right? That is the ultimate goal. You have any thoughts on that?
So you mentioned the 4 purusharthas, dharma, artha, kama and moksha.
Correct.
But the Vaishnav theologians say that actually there is a pancha purushartha, a 5th one. And that very much resonates with what you talked about before, because the Vaishnav scriptures say prema pumartho mahan. The ultimate goal, the 5th goal, beyond even moksha, is prema. And
Wow.
what the acharyas, the teachers say, is that when you actually have developed divine love, then actually you don't even desire moksha anymore. In other words, if you're in this world and you've developed pure love for God, love for everyone around you, then actually you're already in the spiritual world. There's no need for you to gain moksha, because the love in your heart has allowed you to transcend the material world.
So then what happens to somebody who is dharma, artha, kama and prema? So I'm leaving moksha as a transitioning stage. So if one has, suppose you are in love with Krishna, your bhakti has grown to prema and you love Krishna and you've dedicated your life to Krishna and you're trying to teach people to live a good life, live a life of, because one thing we touched about, when the ishq, the Sufis called it ishq-e hakiki and ishq-e majazi. When the love becomes a material love, then we know today there are divorces, there are heartbreaks, there is jealousy, hate, revenge, and everything that's negative in the world. So you agree with me that we are not looking at the material love, but we are looking at divine, spiritual love. The love for Krishna, as you call it, love for Krishna.
Yes, yes.
And I don't know whether you agree that you can see Krishna and love everybody as Krishna. You also agree to that point or not?
As in, we see Krishna within everyone.
Yeah, every individual, right? And love that Krishna in. And love that Krishna. Suppose you love somebody, therefore you're loving the Krishna in somebody. Is it okay to think like that?
Yes. Okay. But they are, so let me just clarify, this is an important point. There's a beautiful Upanishadic analogy. I'll tell you in Sanskrit. Dva suparna jay sayuja sakhaya samanam vriksham parisasvajate. Vriksha means a tree. So what the Upanishads say is that there's the tree, and on the tree there are 2 birds.
Yeah.
And one bird is eating the fruits of the tree, and the other bird is simply watching and observing. So this analogy is used to explain that this body is like a tree, and the soul is the individual soul, the Atman in Ravi, is the one eating, acting in this world, and then the other soul sitting right next to it is the Paramatma, which is watching, which is the Upadrasta, the overseer, and the Anumanta, the permitter. So say for example, if I love you, and I feel love for you actually, even in this short interaction we've had, we are connected. So when I love you, I'm not just loving Krishna within you, I'm loving you also, because you are intimately connected with Krishna. So I'm loving both things. I'm looking at you and I'm seeing here is a beautiful Atma in Ravi, and next to that Atma is the Supreme Soul who loves Ravi, or this Atma in Ravi. So we're loving both.
Very beautiful. So there is a little distinction between the Atma and the Paramatma. Either they are shadows or they are two in one or something. I'm still to learn about it.
Yeah, well,
Because
as I mentioned the verse before that Arjun was told by Krishna, Krishna said, never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. So we are eternally individual spiritual beings. In your SOUL, you could say spirits of unique love.
Okay.
So
Spirit of unique love. Yeah, it's your way of looking at it. I think it's very beautiful that we're having this conversation, because it's very important for the love of God to continue existing, even though they may be Dwaita, Adwaita. It doesn't matter, because both are intending to love God. Both are intending to live a spiritual life. Both are talking of Atma and Paramatma. But let me ask you, when I sing a song on Prabhu, since you like it, tell me what you think about this. In a song I say, प्रभु पास है, प्रभु पास है, दूर नहीं वो, प्रभु पास है, आत्मा ही परमात्मा है, दिल के अंदर उसका निवास है, शिव भी वो वही राम है, घनश्याम हो वही हनुमान है. तो I am asking you, so many gods, so many temples, so many institutions. Isn't God one powerful force? And isn't God in you, in me, in the butterfly, in the bee, in the tree, even as science has declared, in the mountain and in the sea? Because science says every particle of matter, the wave particle duality, there is energy everywhere. So in the song, first of all, without me diverting your attention, so many gods. Is God omnipresent, present in you and me?
yes, very nice. So in the Bhagavad Purana, there's a beautiful verse. Vadanti tat tattvavidas tattvam yajnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavan iti shabdyate. Okay, so if you want to know the full conception of God, the Bhagavad Purana, which is considered the Sarva Vedanta Saram, the essence of all Vedas, the Bhagavatam says that the absolute truth is understood in three phases. First, Brahman. Second, Paramatma. And third, Bhagavan. Before I define these terms, I'll give you an analogy. Three people went to a train station to try to understand what is a train. So they're standing on the platform. In the distance, they saw some steam, some light, and some sound. And the first person said, I know what's a train. It's steam, light, and sound. And then he left. The other two stayed. The train came in. The second person said, I know what a train is. It's steam, light, and sound, and there are carriages. And then he left. The third person waited longer. The doors opened. People came out. He said, I know what train is. It's steam, light, sound. There are carriages, and there are people inside going from one place to another. Now, our teachers use this analogy to say, are any of them wrong? No. They're all right. But the third person has an understanding of all of the aspects of a train.
Correct.
So therefore, Brahman, or the impersonal energy of the Lord, is like the steam, light, and sound of the train. Okay. Paramatma is like the compartments of the train. That supreme soul who is in every living being. But understanding the true purpose of the train, the third person, this is like the one who knows Bhagavan, because ultimately God is a person. He's an individual. He has a name. He has an address. He has certain activities that he likes. He has friends. He plays an instrument. In other words, He's a person. And so God is all of these things. He's universal energy, He's the localized divinity, and He's also a beautiful...
Yeah, but I don't know. I think at our end or somewhere in the internet there's... But we are back. Let's count our blessings. So you were telling me about the 3 levels of evolution in understanding God. Please continue.
Yes. Yes, so we understand that God is an energy, a light. God is also simultaneously the localized divinity within the heart. But ultimately, God is a person, an individual who has his own likes and dislikes, his own looks. And we can have a relationship with Him. So, you see, God, He relates to everyone according to how they want to relate to Him. And so God appears in many avatars, He appears in many different manifestations. But what the scriptures explain is if you want to have the most intimate connection with God, then this is the relationship between the soul and Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead.
It's very beautiful. I completely agree with you. But obviously, when you are talking about the soul and Bhagwan, you may see the Bhagwan in the form of Krishna. Somebody may see the Bhagwan in the form of Rama or Shiva. You don't have a dispute on that in that count.
So in Vedic theology, there are 4 broad categories. Bhagavan,
yes.
Avatar,
yes.
Dvaita,
yeah.
and Jiva.
Okay.
So Bhagavan means the supreme person.
Correct.
Avatar means the different incarnations which come from that supreme person. Yep. Dvaita means the different gods which are in charge of universal affairs. And
Correct.
Jiva means the living beings.
Correct.
Now, these are separate identities. They can't be considered to be the same. But they are connected in love.
Okay. But they are not, you are saying the Bhagavan is not the Jiva is not a manifestation of Bhagavan. You say they are separate.
The Jiva is the energy of Bhagavan, but so they are individual identities.
Okay, correct. But ultimately the Jiva is also made out of Bhagavan matter. The energy that is in the Jiva.
Brahman, spiritual energy, yes, of course.
Yeah. And what is Brahman? Brahman is nothing but Bhagavan.
Yes, Brahman is the energy of Bhagavan, yes.
Correct. So, is it not right to accept what Adi Shankara said, Jagat Mithya, Brahman Satya, which means this whole world is an illusion and only the divine Bhagavan, whether you call it the Krishna consciousness, whatever you call it. Somebody may say it is the power of the Father, the Son and the Holy Spirit. They may even have their own analogy. We are not here to endorse or refute what they say. But everything in this world is that one supreme energy. Do you deny that? Ultimately.
Yes, so the idea is that Bhagavan is the source of everything. Yeah, correct. So we have to understand this. Yeah, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate. From me, everything emanates, all the material and spiritual worlds and all living entities.
Beautiful.
So therefore, everything comes from Krishna. Krishna, in the Vedic teachings, we say, Janmadyasya yataha. That person from whom everything emanates is the Supreme Person.
Absolutely.
Now,
so beautiful.
Though something comes from the Supreme Person, Lord Krishna, what He does is He endows those things with their own identity. So the living beings which come from Krishna are eternally complete in and of themselves. For example, in the famous Ishopanishad we say, Om Purnam Adapurnamidam Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. In this very beautiful verse, the word Purna, perfect and complete, comes again and again. And the translation of this verse is that God, Krishna, is the complete, perfect whole. and many, many complete and perfect units emanate from him, yet he remains the complete whole, even though complete units emanate from him. So, although we come from God, we are not one with God, but we have a relationship of love with God.
Okay. So, it is the biggest challenge is interpreting it. So, you said the mantra of Purnamadam, and we would say it as Om Purnamidam Purnamudam Purnata Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Now, you and me said the same thing, but we may say it in a different way. Swamiji, what is our biggest challenge, you and me? While we are both committed and dedicated to a similar cause, I must share with you, the world is going through a lot of turmoil. The world is going through war. The world is going through so much pain. Science agrees that 95% of matter in this world is unknown to the scientist. They call it dark matter or dark energy. Science has a big problem with religion because so many gods, so many rituals, so many superstitions, science is not willing to accept it. But when you take a spiritual angle to it, when you are trying to explain the Bhagavad Gita, the Bhagavatam, in a sensible, in a practical manner, science agrees to it. Science and spirituality have come to one conclusion. They have synergy. They both agree that everything is energy. So it's a big achievement today. Through the branch of quantum physics and quantum mechanics, science has come to an agreement. You must have heard of the theory of wave-particle duality, that every particle of matter is in essence nothing but a wave of energy wave. Now what you and me are talking is ultimately that. Swamiji, we all believe in God. God defined is God denied. Can you and me actually define God? It's like trying to empty the ocean in our bathtub. We can't empty the ocean in a bathtub. So whether you say Krishna and I say Shiva, it hardly matters. We are talking of the same omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient one. I hope you agree to me that we are not trying to compete in which God is more powerful, because you and me both understand that there is one Supreme Bhagwan. Are we on the same page, or do you have something to add on to this?
Yeah, so according to the theology of the Bhagavatam, remember again I said there is Bhagavan, Avatar, Dvaita and Jiva. Now we can't say that they are the same.
Correct.
According to our understanding, for example, Brahmaji is a Dvaita. He is in charge of creating the universe.
Correct.
Or say for example Vayu, he is in charge of controlling the winds. Indra is in charge of the heavens. Now they are Devatas, they cannot be considered Bhagavan. Yet that doesn't mean we have any less love, any less respect, any less relationship with them. But relationship means we have to understand everyone and love them in the position in which they are actually existing. So while I agree with you that everything is energy, according to the plan of Krishna, everything exists as energy for a unique purpose and is complete in and of itself. And the perfection of life is not necessarily oneness, but the perfection of life is love. When I love every other complete unit in this world, understanding their relationship to the whole, then I will be loving towards everyone around me, towards the animals, towards the nature, because I see divinity everywhere. But it's not that we have to make everything one, because when we make everything one, then there's no opportunity. See, I don't want to become one with you, because if I become one with you, I can't have this conversation of love with you.
But
therefore...
yeah, what you say is correct. But I already love you in the same Krishna consciousness that I love all the manifestations. See, I don't think we are talking different things. It's just how we are able to interpret it. What you said, whether Bhagwan is appearing as Brahman or as the Devta or as the Jiva. What is the Jiva? In Hindi, I tell people, मैं क्या हूँ कुछ भी नहीं, सब कुछ तुम ही हो प्रभु, तुम बिन मैं क्या कुछ भी ना, लहर एक हूँ मैं प्रभु, आता मैं जाता प्रभु, तू है समुंदर सारा, तुझ में समाता प्रभु, तुझ ही से मैं आता कुछ भी ना. I am just a wave and I come from the ocean. It appears that I am a wave, but in reality I am not a wave. I think what you said very beautifully, we have to realize with all humility that we are Jiva. We are in a mortal body, but the Atma, the energy is belonging to the Supreme. You agree what Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita? The Atma can never die. Water cannot drench it, fire can, I think you know the Shloka better than me, but the soul is immortal. Does he not say it? That the soul is imperishable. And so you, my dear Keshava Swami, Keshava Swami will die. But you, the divine soul, you, the divine Atma and Keshava Swami, you are immortal, you are imperishable as per my learning from Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. So you can comment on this, then we can close whatever way you like.
Yeah, no, definitely. This is beautiful. And we started on this point and we've come back to this point. And perhaps as my last thought, I'll share with you the beautiful analogy that Krishna gives us in the 15th chapter of the Gita. Krishna says this world that we're living in is actually a reflection. And the analogy that Krishna uses is the analogy of a banyan tree. And he says, imagine Arjun, there's a banyan tree, and then there's a body of water, and then you see that banyan tree reflected in the water. So what Krishna says to Arjun is that this world is a reflection. This world is a photocopy. But everything that you see in this world, it actually exists in the real world. But it exists without its true substance. So in this world there are people. In that world there are people. In this world there are relationships. In that world also. In this world there are different activities and roles that we play in that world also. But in that world, we live happily ever after. Whereas in this world, everything is temporary, everything is full of ignorance, and everything ultimately leads to distress. So we want to live happily ever after, like all the fairy tales tell us. But the way to do that is by entering into the spiritual world to have a loving relationship with the Supreme Lord and all souls. Because beyond Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, the ultimate goal of life is Prema Yoga, as you said very beautifully. Thank you so much.
There's a beautiful song which Kailash Kher sings. You know, he says, इश्क जुनून जब हद से बढ़ जाए, हंसते हंसते आशिक सूली चढ़ जाए, जब इश्क का जादू सर चढ़ कर बोले, खूब लगा लो पहरे रस्ते रब खोले, ये इश्क दी मर्जी है, ये रब दी मर्जी है. What he says, that, oh Lord, if I live without you, then I'm selfish. So to conclude, since you like the concept of Prema Yoga, and I'll send you a book, I told Kailash Kher, प्रीतम में जिसे रब मिले इश्क वो है, प्रीतम फिर प्रीतम नहीं है देवी है, रब से जो प्यार पल पल करता है, प्रीतम में वो देवी को पाता है, प्रेमी फिर प्रेमी ना, प्रेमी तो देवी है, देवी मंदिर में ना, देवी प्रेमी में है, प्रेमी में जो प्रभु पाता वो ही प्यार करता, और कोई प्यार नहीं है. So this is what I say, अनुभूति हो गई, अनुभूति. The realization, Keshav Swami, is something very beautiful today. We are coming to an end to the first podcast, and I hope if this is meaningful to you, See, it's a big challenge we have, let me tell you. We are in a beautiful conversation with love for each other and a divine bond and a soulful connection. And there is deep bhakti for Krishna and Krishna consciousness, just as I used to call that God Shiva. But today I say, Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham. That Shiva is not somewhere far away. Earlier I used to pray to Shiva. Now I pray through Shiva to that Bhagavan which you call Krishna. And with all due respect and my hands folded, I accept. There is no denial or there is no argument. But what I am hoping, that if we both can get into a more mature and agreeable form of a podcast, as podcast number 2, whenever you like, let us try to discuss a little deeper on God realization, on the understanding of God as per the Bhagavad Gita, and the understanding of God as per the Upanishads, not trying to collide or conflict with each other. See, because there is a very strong bhakti movement in Krishna consciousness. And the Bhagavad Gita has both. The Bhagavad Gita has lots of bhakti and duality, where I and God are separate. And the Bhagavad Gita also has several subjects where it seems that God and me are one. I am nothing. Basically not Aham Brahmasmi does not mean I am God. It means I am nothing. In fact, I tell people, I started with nothing, became something, achieved everything, only to realize I am nothing. What am I? If this moment, if the Supreme wants me not to speak one more word to you, this podcast would end in a matter of a fraction of a second. So I want to, from my side, I want to pranams, I want to thank you for the amazing conversation we have had, where we have tried to merge the Bhagavad Gita and the beautiful teachings and the wisdom, and how this duality and this non-duality, Dvaita, Adwaita, don't really matter, because ultimately we are trying to pray, we are trying to attain Godhood. So I would like to thank you with folded hands and give over to you for your concluding comments, and I look forward to another conversation.
Thank you so much. No, it's been an honor to be with you. And what I appreciate about you is your genuineness, your openness. And, where there is like-mindedness, then we're able to have an open conversation, even when we may have different opinions. But as you said, ultimately, even those opinions, I'm sure, on a higher level, we resolve them. And I hope in the future we can have more conversations and delve into this. And I hope our viewers will appreciate this, this very open and honest and joyful conversation.
I'm grateful to you. It was lovely speaking to you. And before I end, I must say I love you. And you are an amazing manifestation of Krishna to me. I'm not talking to anybody else but Swayam Bhagwan Keshawa Swami. It was great and honored to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you for being with us on this podcast, and we look forward to continuing the discussion to a heightened state of Dvaita, Advaita, God realization. But remember, God is in you, God is in me. God defined is God denied. Trying to realize God through words is like trying to empty the ocean in your bathtub. But still, our love for God makes us continue to have such podcasts, such conversations, so that we can bring each seeker closer to God.